Hi guys, thanks for watching. I'm Saumya, and on my channel Saumya's Bookstation I spread all the book love that I can. And if you want to become a book lover or you are already one, then do hit that subscribe button. Also do not forget to press the bell icon so that every time I post a video you get notified. Please do let me know the names of the books that you loved in 2018, at least your top 5 or top 3. And how was your 2018 in terms of reading? I'm looking forward to your comments, guys. So as you can tell by the title of the video, in today's video I am going to give you a list of 10 books that I loved the most in 2018 out of the 100 books that I read. Yes, I ended up reading 100 books and I feel super happy because of that. So these are the 10 books that left a huge impact on me because of their storylines, because of how I felt when I read them. They gave me a wonderful reading experience. But let me be very clear, these are not the only 10 books that I loved. There were other books that I liked as well. But yeah, I obviously like these 10 the most, so that's why they're in the list. So let's get into the video. The first book is Half the Night is Gone by Amitabh Bagchi. So in this book, a celebrated Hindi novelist Vishwanath loses his son to an accident, and to cope up with his loss, he writes a story that is based in the house of Lala Moti Chand and his 3 sons. 2 of them are legitimate sons and the 3rd son is illegitimate. So the reason that I loved this book was that it made me really emotional because it has a very poignant vibe to it. The characters in this book are very flawed and they're very human, and so the recurring themes in this book are that of familial connection and bond and love, and most of all, the most recurring theme in this book is that of regret, because there are things in life that we do. Often in life we are really stubborn, and in retrospect we realize that the decisions we took were not the best decisions and that we should not be that adamant in life. All the familial relationships in this book have been edged out in a way that makes them so real, whether it's a relationship between father and son, whether it's a relationship between brothers. The next book is Cersei by Madeline Miller. If you want to read a fiction book that is going to inspire you a lot, Cersei is a very good book to pick up. The reason for that is that Cersei's character is that of an underdog. Now Cersei is born in the house of Helios, who is the sun god, but Cersei does not have a divine or a godly appearance and a voice, and because of that she is treated like an outcast by the other gods. So Cersei leads a life of isolation, and then love comes in her life, and to protect her love she does something dark. She casts a dark spell, and as a result of that she's banished to an isolated island. And when she's in that island, she discovers her hidden powers, that of witchcraft. So in this book we get to read the story of Cersei, who considers herself a weakling until she taps her powers and she realizes that she has a lot of potential, and she ends up becoming really formidable. And how Cersei holds her own and how Cersei becomes this strong, badass woman is something so motivating to read about. The next book is Incredia Leuven of Breda by Sarang Mahajan. So this one is a fantasy thriller. It's a story of a 17-year-old boy named Leuven and his 19-year-old sister named Meg. Now Leuven and Meg have to be on the run right from the beginning of the story because some powerful and demonic forces want Leuven to be dead. Now why they want him dead is not revealed to us. They are always trailed by dangers, and they get some companions along the way who help them dodge the danger for the time being at least. And this is the reason that this book is so fast paced. And since this is a thriller, that is a very good quality in this book, because if a thriller is not fast paced, it's not really fun to read it. But this book does not give the reader the reason or the chance to complain, because you're always on the edge of your seat with this book, because you don't know what is going to happen on the next page, and something is always about to happen. There are so many twists and turns in this book. This is the book that when you put it down, it is going to call you back. I am looking forward to the second book in this series, because this one is the first book in the Incredia series and I loved it. The next book is The 100 Nights of Hero by Isabel Greenberg. This is a graphic novel and it is mainly a story about 2 girls named Cherry and Hero. Now these 2 girls are lovers and they cannot come out and open with their love, because the story is based in that time when it was frowned upon when a woman did anything except pleasing a man. So in this graphic novel we get to read the stories that are told by Hero. That is why it's called The 100 Nights of Hero, because Hero tells us different stories over a span of 100 nights, where she tells stories about injustice, betrayal, heartbreaks, and all these stories center women. The main message that this book conveys through its stories is that no matter what happens, the society always finds the way to blame everything on a woman. It is a very good experience reading it, because the main message of this book is that no matter how much the society tries to curb your enthusiasm, no matter how much the society tries to bring you down, as a woman you should always hold your head up high and go for your goals and not be scared of anybody. The next book is Jazmin Days by Benny Amin, translated from Malayalam by Shahnaz Habib. This book won the JCB Prize for Literature 2018 and I think it is a deserving winner. This story is taking place in an unnamed Middle Eastern city and it revolves around the life of a Pakistani girl named Samira Parveen who lives there with her extended family and her father in a house called Tayaghar. She works as a radio jockey there and she is good at her job. And she has lots of friends and her family loves her. Life is good but not until long. One day, rebellion hits her country and that rebellion eventually reaches her city and it ends up affecting her life adversely. She ends up making some really tough and some really painful decisions. So the reason that I love this book is that it is very engrossing and very engaging. I wanted to know what is going to happen next in Samira's life. I wanted to know how she was going to deal with all the difficult situations and adversities in her life. This is a book that made me laugh from time to time. Initially in the story when it was lighthearted, it made me cry, it made me spooked out as well. It's such a wide range of emotions that you go through when you read this book. The next book is I've Never Been Unhappier by Shaheen Bhatt. Now this book I read on Kindle because it is available only as an ebook, and when I got my hands on it, it was available at a negligible price, around 15 or 16 rupees. I think it might still be available at this price. So Shaheen Bhatt is Alia Bhatt's sister and she has written this short book. It's like 60-70 pages long and she has talked about her experience with going through depression and how she dealt with it. I have included this book in my list because I feel it is a very important book. It is a book that you should read if you want to educate yourself when it comes to depression, because depression is not an illusion and it is a real thing and people go through it. So if you have gone through depression, this is a book that you can find comfort in. I found comfort in this book because I was able to relate to this book. There were many extreme and very triggering moments in this book as well that made me flinch. But yes, when you read something on depression, it is obviously bound to get uncomfortable at some point. The next book is Mortared Dawn by Saadat Hasan Manto. This is a collection of stories. This has been translated from Urdu by Khalid Hassan. So this was my first book by Manto. It contains stories and sketches about partition, 50 of them. So it's a book that makes you feel horrified because of the content of the book, because Manto has not refrained from talking about the atrocities that were committed during the time of partition in his stories. And even though these stories are fictional, when you read them you realize that they are definitely inspired from real events. You realize the magnitude of this mass exodus when you read this book, and Manto has captured the emotions of people, their horrors, their hopes in this book. This is not a pleasant book to read, mind you, but this is a book that stays with you long after you have put it down. The next book is A Man Called Ove by Frederick Backman. So this is a book about a 59-year-old man named Ove. Now when you start this book, you read about Ove, who is a very grumpy man. He does not like talking to people. He thinks most of them are idiots anyway. He is a man who has a very set way of living. He has very set principles and he does not budge from his principles. Initially you are confused as to what is the deal with him, why is he so grumpy, but as you read the story and as you find out about his life, you start to form a very strong bond with Ove's character. You start to find him endearing because he is extremely endearing. Beneath the hard exterior, he is a very good human being. If you want to read a book that is going to bring a smile to your face, that is going to make you cry from time to time, and that is definitely going to make you laugh, then A Man Called Ove is the book for you. The next book is Killing Commendatore by Haruki Murakami. So I was not even sure if I was going to read this book in the first place or not, because it's like 700 pages long. Haruki Murakami is not my favorite writer, and picking up a 700 pages long book is quite a commitment, but I decided to go for it. I was not disappointed. It was a fascinating experience on the whole for me. This book has every expected Murakami element. It has magical realism, it has weird situations, and it has unusual characters. So the story begins with this unnamed artist who gets abandoned by his wife. She leaves him for another man and he decides to move out of their apartment, and he ends up in this mountaintop cottage that belongs to this really famous artist called Tomohiko Amada. So from then on, unusual things start happening in this artist's life. There is a character who lives across the valley. He is a very rich man, Wataru Menshiki. He comes into his life. There is a painting that this artist finds in the attic of the cottage. That painting has been titled Killing Commendatore. There is a character of a 13-year-old girl named Marie Akikawa. And then there is this 2-foot-tall human who calls itself Commendatore. I liked this book by Murakami because there were a lot of definite things happening in this book. not much was left to interpretation in my opinion in this book. There were some really weird scenarios in this book, some I even found uncomfortable, but they were under 100 pages. It's a 700 pages long book, so for the most part I enjoyed it. And also, even though it's a long book and even though it took me 20 days, I was not bored even once while reading this book, which is saying something for a book that is this lengthy. But if you ask me that should you pick it up if you haven't read a book by Murakami, I'm not sure if you should, because I had to read 4 more books before this to get used to Murakami, and this is a lengthy book for you to pick up if you want to begin reading Murakami. The next book is The Mermaid and Mrs. Hancock by Imogen Hermes Gover. So there are 2 characters, Angelica Neal, who's a courtesan, and Jonah Hancock, who is a merchant. So one day one of Jonah Hancock's captains come to him and he tells him that he has a mermaid with him which he got in exchange of the ship that he was sailing. And as a result of this mermaid, he also ends up in the company of Angelica Neal and he's instantly attracted to her because she's very beautiful. So their lives come together at this point. But before their lives come together, their individual stories are also very entertaining to read about. Because of the mermaid in the story, there is also a mysterious aspect in the story. There is a dark shadow that looms over Angelica and Jonah, and how they deal with it is what the story is about. One thing that I absolutely love about this book is that since it is taking place in 1785, the vibe of this book is very much like a classic, except it is written in a language that is very easy to understand. At least I did not come across any difficulty while reading this book. So that was something that I loved about this book, and the story also in itself is extremely interesting. So these are my top 10 books of 2018 that I totally recommend you guys pick up, except Killing Commendatore, and I told you the reason why for that. So that was it for today's video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, and if you want to connect with me on my social media, the links are in the description. I will see you in my next video very soon. Till then, bye bye.